Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. It seems a bit weird saying it like this because usually I'm either interviewing someone and we're just recording on Zoom, so it's just us. Doing it live is a bit weird, but I think it's going to be a more efficient way of doing the podcast from now on, particularly on the other side where there's quite a lot of editing or like the uploading and the YouTube stuff. So this is the way we're going to go. Now, the things that we're going to cover today are. There's three main points, really. One is we're going to look at the energy that we have and that we bring, and whether there's habits and triggers or distractions to those things. And I'm going to just talk about my story of like what happened when I was not feeling very well in November and December, and then how that's really impacted the start of 2024. And not because I'm ill anymore. There was something else at play. So I'm going to talk about those things. And I really want to talk about my mum. Obviously, it's Mother's Day at the weekend here in the UK. I want to talk about my mum's influence on me as a person, as what it was like as a child, and then why that didn't particularly work well as a child. Well, it did, and it all worked out well overall. But particularly like the personality that I've got now and the drive and ambition that comes from my mum. So I'm going to talk about that, and then I also want to like drip in a little bit about the TTA because we had a board meeting last month, and kind of had that whole imposter type approach to it, and I kind of came away feeling like, I wonder what I'm bringing to the table. I want to bring this up because I think this is really important for us to explore, like when we have these feelings, like what we can do about it, because I've got a plan in place. I know what I bring to the table. It's just about making sure that I'm going to deliver on those things and make it work. You know, that's the whole point. I want to make sure that I'm having a positive impact on anything that I do, but particularly in that space, because I want tuition to be, I want to raise the profile of tuition. Okay, so energy, like lots of you will know, I didn't feel particularly myself in November and December, to the point where just general energy, I was just completely drained. I had a really horrible cold. It was probably some sort of COVID. I don't know what. Everything was coming up negative, but I was really unwell. I'm not going to like go into the details and make everybody feel sick, but the real effect was having no energy. I was completely drained. So between November and December, I downed tools and I was looking after myself, but I still had to come up and do the tuition in the afternoon. So 2 or 3 hours an evening, which, how lucky am I that that's the way that the business is running at the moment. Like I don't have to be anywhere, because I wouldn't have been able to work. There's no way I would have been able to work like a normal day. But I had to get myself up and energized to come and tutor for those times. And there was a little bit going on in the group, but essentially I shut myself down. And the outcome for November and December was waking up in the morning, getting some joggers on and a comfy jumper, going down and doing what I needed to do in the morning just to make sure everything was ticking over. And then I would just sleep. An alarm would be on and I'd come up, I'd teach for a couple of hours, I'd go home and I sleep. So November and December was pretty much along those lines for about 6 or 7 weeks. The Christmas period, luckily again, I didn't work because that was the height of it. And I just slept for a couple of weeks in between doing the usual family gatherings and Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. But I just was not myself. And it wasn't until I hit mid-January that I thought, actually, I've got a bit of energy back. And I felt a little bit back to the way I was sort of October time, but something still wasn't right. I didn't have the same. I felt at the time, I felt like I felt normal or back to normal. I still didn't have the same drive or energy that I had in October. And even though I wasn't sleeping as much and I didn't need to sleep at all during the day, there was still something missing. And it wasn't until the TTA board meeting that I just mentioned earlier on, that I was like, actually, this is a habitual thing here. You've started to allow old habits to come back into your life. Like, for example, I know what sets me up to have a productive day. When I left teaching 6 years ago, I was working for an ed tech company called 5 A Day Fitness, and I had to do 30 hours a week. I would wake up at 6 every day, get myself dressed, and I'd work for 4 hours. So by 10 o'clock, I'd done the majority of the hours that I would needed to have done for 5 A Day Fitness. And it meant I have the rest of the day to work on my own stuff. I'd get up and I'd get dressed. I'd make that happen. I'd have like, I don't know, I'm going to say like I'm an old man now, so I'm wearing chinos, T-shirt or whatever. but I'd actually get physically dressed, not into sweats or joggers or anything like that. I would actually, make sure I was wearing what I would consider sort of work clothes. That really helped with me. That was a trigger. This is what we're talking about, creating habits. There's trigger points. If I'm up and dressed at that time, I'm far more likely to start work and be productive. But because of what it was like over November and December, I wasn't getting dressed because I just wanted to get into something comfortable, get what I needed to get done, and then I'd go and lie down. Like, by 9 o'clock, I was back in bed or I was lying on the sofa, just like either watching something on TV or just chilling out. Now, in January and February time, I was feeling better, but I was still getting into my joggers in the morning and my comfy and my comfy jumper, and then just chilling out. And that's not an energy thing. It was just the habit that I'd got into. And I wanted to be more productive than that. I mean, you saw the post in the week about, like, I'm not saying I've ignored our group. I haven't done that, but I haven't been as present as what I used to be. And I haven't been driving it forward in the same way I had previously, because I'd not been having the same triggers to go into the group and be active and monitor things. Because I've been getting into that sounds really strange, isn't it? Because I've been getting into the wrong clothes and I wake up. And it's not so much the clothes, it's the trigger of what we're doing. Okay, that trigger to be more productive. The other thing is that I'm also fortunate enough to have this office space. I work better when I'm in the office space. This morning, I usually take quite a lot of Thursdays off, but I really wanted to do this today. So I was like, actually, what I need to do tomorrow is I need to get up early, get dressed, come up, get a couple of hours work done, like really like important stuff, and then go home and I can take a little bit of time off. So Thursday's usually my day where I just relax a little bit, or I force myself to relax. Still doesn't often happen or feel good, but I do know that I cannot keep working 7 days a week. That's not healthy for anybody. So I kind of force this time. So I get up, I get dressed, I come up, but I've left my phone at home today on purpose because I also know my phone's a distraction, and that comes into play. Like, do we manage our distractions? When I work from home, I still do a good job, but I probably do 2 hours worth of work and it takes me 4 hours because my phone will ping, and some of that will be work stuff, but there'll be an email that I answer, and that might take me 2 minutes to reply, or a message comes through on Facebook. Again, might take me a couple of minutes to reply, but because I'm on Facebook, I'm suddenly sucked in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I might go and check Instagram as well, or I might have a quick look on TikTok to see what's going on in there, if anything funny or anybody, like I follow a few business people on there, and something interesting that might add some value to my day. But I didn't want that this morning. So I leave my phone at home, come in, do 2 hours work, and I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my day. What do you have in your day that distracts you when you work, if you are working from home? Like for me, yeah, the phone's one thing, but so is the washing up, so is the washing, so is the tumble dry goings, or hanging out the washing, or there'll be a million and one things to always do at home. Are you good at managing those things? And then what's the trigger point to become productive? What's the point where you say, actually, this needs to happen so I can do the next thing? So I've said something silly like getting dressed, but it could be that you actually change your environment. Like you actually go, I used to, when I didn't have an office, I would go to Costa for a couple of hours. I would work harder in those 2 hours at Costa Coffee, get the 2 hours worth of work done and completed, be super productive. Whereas if I was at home, that same amount of time or same amount of work would probably take me 4 hours to do. So what are your trigger points? What are your distractions? Start getting to grips with, or start understanding what they are for you. Now, there's 2 books here I recommend. One I haven't read yet, but I know loads of people have recommended it to me. It's I think it's called The Morning Routine. And the other one is Atomic Habits. They both sound really similar. Atomic Habits is what I'm talking about with triggers and trigger points, triggering and trigger points, and managing distractions. So me getting up and getting dressed. Some people say get up and you should make your bed. Some people say, well, whatever it is. Actually, the book kind of like doesn't totally debunk those things because they can all be triggers for people, but we all have different things. Some people, it's a cup of coffee. They wake up, they get their coffee, and they go for it. But it is about, Sarah's just said, like, she agrees, she tries to get out once a week just to change environment, change scenery. Like for me, that was really important. But I mean, Costa Coffee, if you're there for a couple of hours, that's 2 coffees, that's like £9. I wouldn't do that every day. But at the same time, if it means that you've got an extra 2 hours back in your day somewhere, it's probably one of the best £9 you'll ever spend. And coffee's decent, I suppose. But it's these trigger points. What is it going to trigger for what could you have that is a trigger point for you? On a different note, this used to work in a slightly different way, not outside of business. I was going to the gym. I used to follow people on Instagram, and there was one particular person who did really good high quality content videos that when I watched one, I was like, well, I'm going to the gym. It was like a trigger. It was like a bit of motivation that I needed. But often it was at a similar time every day. So sometimes I'd get home from school, I'd like do that whole doom scrolling. Right, there's the video. Right, I'd get my stuff on and I'd go. It was like a really weird trigger, but it used to work for me. But what are they for you? So have a look. And data's really good at this. And I'm not going to say you need to do this like in a journal or anything at that kind of level, but just monitor what it is. When you have a really good day, I mean, I'm a big believer in scoring your days out of 10, where 10 out of 10 is the best day you could ever have and 1 out of 10 is the worst. Well, if you track your days over the series of like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you could start to pinpoint like, oh, I had an 8 out of 10 day on Wednesday. What happened on Wednesday that helped that happen? I had like a 3 out of 10 day on Friday. What was it around that day that meant I didn't get done what I needed to get done? And you can just start to, over time, sort of, I suppose, aggregate these things together and go, actually, when I have a good day, this happens. I'm up at this time, or I was forced to get up because I was catching a train, or this happens. I had a meeting at 9, so I had to make sure I was up and ready. So I, put on some smart clothes, or I got up and I made sure I did my hair, or whatever it may be. So have a think about your energy levels. And look, I would say that we do need to protect our energy. It's really important. But on the flip side of it, actually monitor where you get your energy from and what's the trigger for you to have a super productive day. I know I fell into some bad habits, and I suppose the way that I started to get out of that was by being forced into going into London for the day, meeting up with other inspirational people, me reflecting and going, oh my gosh, actually, I have this energy. Where's it gone? Like, I need this back again. What's the catalyst for this? And weirdly, it's like that was the catalyst for it with the TTA board meeting. But Lisa Johnson's challenge last week got me so fired up that suddenly, like, for other people, like, I was like, actually, and helping other people's always the thing. This is going to lead me into talking about my mum in a second. Helping other people fulfill their potential, or at least show them that they have more to give and more to gain, that was just hit at the right time. Like, I really needed that week. That was the universe saying, here we go, here's an even better catalyst. Go and start supporting people. I've refound that energy again, and I'm so pleased it's there. I knew it was there, but it was just hiding behind sort of bad habits and me not showing up in the way that I used to. Okay. That this motivation to help other people, I want to kind of explain where that comes from. And it's Mother's Day at the weekend. I've spoken about my dad so many times. That my dad's my hero because of how hard he works. What my dad didn't have and didn't give us was drive and ambition. My dad was just a hard worker. And so the work ethic's there. And this is not me having a go at my dad at all, because he has his own motivations for that, which is really like rooted into the old fashioned family approach of, providing for your family, literally hunter gatherer. My mum, on the flip side, was completely different. Now, we come from a humble family. There was nobody educated to any degree level before I was first generation university. The only reason I managed to get there was because my mum made it a priority. My mum spoke to us about, your way out of being a labourer, being somebody who has no choices, is through education. But it's more than that, way, way more than that. My mum is an amazing communicator. It's her super strength, to the point where, she just loves to talk. Like, it's just, I think it's her passion. It's the thing that she absolutely loves to do the most. But there was something she gave to us which wasn't really helpful at school, but was a superpower out of it. And that is the permission to ask questions and the permission to be curious, but also the permission to push back. Like, when something doesn't feel right, there's a reason for it. And so my mum made us listen to our intuition. Now, it wasn't as helpful at school as you can imagine. We've probably all worked with those children who question everything you do, or perhaps have become more challenging, the more you push and try to have that authority over them. That was me, because my mum gave me that. She just gave us permission to do that. I'm going to tell a story about a teacher when I was 12, 13. I can't remember the exact age. I think I was year 9, so it probably would have been 13. And he was our tutor, like a form tutor. We didn't get on, but not to the point where it was really feisty and really horrible. But there was an element of our relationship was just a little bit fractious, is probably the best way to say it. And it was one of those, do you know those funny things? We've probably done skits about it, but my friends often bring this up. Do you remember that teacher like used to call the register, and when you said here, used to send you out, Rich? Like, it was one of those. I mean, we're probably over exaggerating it, and we've made that story more funny than what it is, but it did feel like that at the time being there. It was like very much a case of other people could ask questions, but if I did it, there was tension. I'd be the one to leave the room. But it was also a little bit, there was also other strange things. I used to be put in a room on my own, and used to come in and say things like, oh, is there anything going on at home between your mum and dad? Like, that to me just made me want to pick up the chair and hit him around the head with it, because our family was like very defensive in that, and we're a very close-knit family. I'm not saying my mum and dad didn't have relationship problems, in a sense that in any normal way. Did they argue a little bit? Yeah, sure. But they were always really close. And so when everyone attacked that, I felt very protective. And so that was his way of doing it. But I would stand up to him and I'd ask him questions. I'd be like, why? Is there something going on between you and your wife? Which was and the thing is, I know that's not the right thing to do, but as a 13-year-old, and I'd been given that permission to do that by my mum, I was like, you should be questioning authority. It shouldn't just be like they tell you what to do. Yeah, there's times when you have to get in line, but there's other times when you defend. And my older sister, my younger brother, that was very much a case of, as a family, we would stand up for one another. So that was a line. So my mum would very much say, ask questions, be curious. But underlying it all was this really passionate approach to education for us. She was like, education is your way to make choices. How do you, and the sort of question she would ask us growing up would be, what is it that you want to be like when you're older? Do you want to have choices for yourself? The only way you're going to have choices and take your life into your own hands is if you go to college or sixth form and university. That we didn't have another way out. There wasn't anybody in our family who was growing, a mega business that we could just go and piggyback on the back of, or there wasn't any money coming from anywhere to come and save us. Our way out was through education, and that was really drilled home to us, to the point where it was like constantly nagging. Like, she's a great communicator, but what she did was be super persistent. But she made us believe in ourselves as well. It wasn't just a case of saying, like, this is your path and this is where you should go. She'd go, this, you're able to do it. This is you. She gave us a lot of self-belief. So as much as that kind of idea that we could challenge and we could ask questions was there, she also gave us respect for the education system, and that was our way out. And I've got an older sister and a younger brother, and we've all become successes in our own right. My sister actually struggled a little bit at school, most likely because there's dyslexia, underlying dyslexia, but we're talking 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Like, no one really had that level of support in school, so it kind of got missed. And still, some of that stuff gets missed today with girls, doesn't it? Often it gets identified much later. And there might even be other underlying things. I often think ADHD is an underlying thing there, undiagnosed, in my sister as well. But it's her superpower now. She's done amazingly well. Now, her educational pathway was different to mine, but she still made it to the top of her profession. And my brother's doing exactly the same. This way of communicating and giving us our self-belief, allowing us to have permission to challenge. And even though at school that was quite hard to manage, because it felt like, we could challenge in a certain way when perhaps we probably shouldn't have been, meant that it was quite difficult then. But actually leaving school, that's been, I think, one of the biggest strengths that I've taken from different industries into different jobs. But I think the other thing is she's a champion, not like all good mums, all good mothers, they champion you. And when I was coming home from the tutoring conference in September, when I'd had this amazing experience, the first person I phoned was my mum, and I shared it with my mum and my dad. And there was so much, like, I don't know. I suppose pride, but also like I think relief sometimes. Like my mum, I've taken a weird kind of course in my working life. I've gone around the house and I don't regret it. I've been involved in some amazing projects, but it's certainly been non-standard. I'm pretty sure my mum would have looked at me in my early 20s when I started a family and wasn't earning a lot of money and trying to find the right place to land. She probably looked at me, what on earth is this guy doing? This is not what I was telling him. By the time I got to my like 30s, mid 30s, she's like, no, actually your path's it's going to serve you really well later on in life. And I think that's sort of turning out to be a truth. So she's been a real big champion of like self-esteem, self-belief, and just someone at the back of your life that's really back of my life, that in my life that's really dependable. But like, she doesn't take any of the credit for it. She doesn't want it. She does her thing. She says her piece, and then she just backs off. And I think but so I'm bringing her to the front today because I feel like I have spoken about my dad a few times, and my dad's influence on me has been really important. But that on its own wasn't enough. The ambition and drive, and this wanting to keep taking steps forward, that definitely comes from my mum and the way that she spoke with us as children and young adults especially. And I think what my mum really gave us was a platform to become young adults from a young age. So or successful adults from a young age. She gave us the idea that, look, this might not be right for you now, but later on it's going to work out really well for you. So it got me into a lot of trouble in school. And my mum is super feisty. So it's what she gave to, particularly as a young mum herself, she wasn't to be messed with. And there are times when I just used to shrink away from some of the conversations. If there was something unjust going on, people would know about it. And I used to view that and be quite scared at the time, but I know that that's in me now. That's where that comes from. And the need that wanting to help others on the basis of feeling unjust themselves or something unjust happening to them is there. So that even the element of caring about what's happening on a moral level also comes from my mum. So that I've actually managed to get through that without getting emotional. I've rehearsed this twice. And every time I've gone like, oh my God, am I going to be able to say that? But I've managed to hold on to it. Like, bless my mum, because if I didn't have the skills from her that she gave me, I don't think I'd be able to do something like this. I don't think I'd be able to support the families I've supported in the past, but also now the children and young people that come in tuition as well. So energy, habits, triggers, who have you got in your life that has helped you become the person that you are? Reflect on those things. And if you are lucky enough to still have that person around, reach out to them and let them know, because I think that's important too. The passing of time is something which I do consider quite a lot, to the point where that is also a big driver. Right, the last point I'm going to bring up, and there's a lot of energy there for just talking about energy and talking about those important, influential people in our lives. The TTA. I can't tell you how excited I am about being involved in this organization. There's something massive about to land. I can't tell you about it yet. I need to get permission first. That's going to really support how the world of tuition grows in the future. There's something about to land on the wider platform that's going to help everybody feel like the level of support on offer from the TTA is just about to go up another 10 levels. And sat on the board meeting a few weeks ago when this was first proposed. Straight away, I was like, this needs to happen. Like, this is something that's going to help propel us into the next level, which is where we need to go. The TTA's got a lot of followers. It's the only one that's recognized by the DfE. We've got a lot of links into government, and we want to make sure that we provide the right platform for tuition. And we're only as powerful as any other. We're not a union in that sense, but like any kind of membership like this, we're only as powerful as our members, and we need members to grow. But to do that, we need to provide value. We need to make sure that when people become a member, they feel like they're getting something back for their money and the time that they're going to invest in it. So this new thing that's about to land, I'm really hoping I can share about it within the next couple of weeks. It's going to be huge. So I just want to plant that little seed in there and just get a little buzz around it. Just keep your eyes and ears to the ground, and I'll be sharing some of that soon. But I did feel like, I know I alluded to this a bit earlier on about that, just a bit feeling like the imposter in that situation, which was a little bit about the energy that I was bringing in myself. But actually, when you're sat around a table with like some amazing people, like Deborah Salisbury, who's like the reading doctor, like the actual reading doctor, the person who started it all off. And you've got Lucy Alexander Spencer one side and Sarah Dunwood sitting opposite you. I'm sat next to John Nichols, you know, there, and other just amazing people in the tuition industry. It was very easy to slip into the, oh my God, am I meant to be here? Do I belong here? And it made me question. I came away and I was questioning, like, what is it that I'm bringing to the table? Because I don't think I can offer more than, say, like really good questions like Lucy Alexander Spencer and Deborah, those two just on their own, but also the others. There were some amazing people there. The level of question that they bring, the level of detail or attention to detail that they bring to the table, it's just so high from a perspective that I wouldn't have even considered. And I get this sometimes, even like when I've done lives with Sharon and someone asks a question, she comes at the question from a different angle than I would, because there's just a different perspective from where she's at. And sometimes that's time and experience, or just general wisdom. Another time it's just personality, and that's what you bring. So I came away from there knowing that I needed to rethink, like, what am I bringing here? What am I bringing to the table? So I've got a plan in place, which again, I can't share with you right now, but I really want to elevate. What was the reason for me wanting to be part of the board? It's because I wanted to elevate, and I still want to elevate the tuition world, the tuition industry. I want to make sure that people understand like how important it is and the kind of life that we can create. Hence why this group exists. Hence the life that we can create from creating our own tutoring business or being part of that world. And I know what my strengths are in that. It's community based. It's reaching out to people. It's talking to people. It's bringing communities together in a way where we can find out more about what we need. So I've made a plan around those strengths. So I've got lots more to offer, lots more to add. And so over the next few weeks, I want to do more of these live podcasts. So if anybody's interested in either being a guest or maybe like changing it slightly to become like a round table where we can answer questions and just discuss stuff in general, please reach out to me, because, you know, I'm open to collaboration. And I think some of these, particularly these sorts of episodes, will be better if there was a second and maybe a third person. So yeah, just reach out to me and let me know if you'd like to be a guest. And I will all speak to you all very soon. This is a bit of an experiment again today, because I've not done it like this before. Let me know your thoughts. If it's something that works for you, great, and I'll continue to do them. I'll probably experiment over the next sort of 3 or 4 months with different ways of getting the podcast out there. This is also streaming into YouTube as well, which will hopefully save me a ton of time. One of the reasons I wanted to step back from the podcast was just time. It takes so much time on the other side to like get it ready, put it out there so everybody can get access to it. What I can do from here, though, will be uploaded to Spotify. I will not stop doing that. Everything will end up on Spotify as well. Right, go and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and I'll speak to you soon. See you later.